Hey YouTube, so we are at Famous Reading Outdoors. Obviously this was recorded before the COVID-19 stuff. I'll just point that out ahead of time. We are headed to Mount Carmel, and at the end of the last video you probably saw this last little segment. This is a Mount Carmel track, and like I described, so Famous Reading Outdoors is made up of a bunch of different tracks or areas of land, and we're going from the locust, which is like the area on the bottom left, to the area on the right, which is the Mount Carmel track, and I believe we're above, like where it says keep out, essentially the left keep out, not the right keep out, and we basically just turned in there, and then we will be going around different areas of the Mount Carmel track. Now, like I was describing earlier, this is basically coal territory. So they have like 20,000 acres of essentially coal land, and they are actively mining different areas of it. And so you can get this pass for Famous Reading Outdoors, and with the pass you can go to all 20,000 acres. A lot of it is going to end up being like basically coal roads, so to speak, or like easy greens. There are some difficult areas, and unfortunately I don't have any of the difficult areas on video recently that I can show you, but the X-Rock competition is here, for instance, and I do know of some difficult trails that are here that I also haven't done, just because I haven't done a whole lot of stuff here. So this is kind of getting later in the day, and this is the first time that we've been out with the Jeep, obviously, with this Jeep, with a Gladiator. So because of that, we actually selected to do an easier ride. So the Gladiator itself has some different characteristics that the other Jeep didn't have, because obviously, the other one was a Wrangler on 40-inch tires, so it's very tall, very high center of gravity. This Jeep has no lift on it, where the other one had a 4-inch lift. This one has a 33-inch tires instead of the 40-inch tires, so that's about another 3.5 inches. So the other one was obviously about 7 or 8 inches taller than this one between the lift and the tires. The other thing is this one is much longer than the other one, so because this one's longer, this one has like slightly different angles, mostly the breakover angle. So you have like the approach angle, which is like the angle in which you can approach something in the front until you hit the bumper, and the approach angle is probably pretty similar on all the Jeeps, and the departure angle is how steeply you can go off things, and the departure angle is probably pretty similar on most Jeeps. However, the breakover angle, which is like the how steep can it be between the wheels before you get high centered, has a lot to do with your wheelbase. So if you're like a 2-door, then you can get really crazy with it. If you're a 4-door, then not so much, and then if you're a truck, then it's even worse. Let's just say that. And I would have to say probably my departure angle probably isn't as good as it is on the other Jeep either. That's probably why they put those little rock rails on the back of the Jeep near the bed. So we are about to get up to an obstacle, so you can see this, see what I'm talking about exactly. And once again, we're out here doing the easy trails, so we can just get a really good feel for the vehicle. We don't want to do anything too dumb too quickly, so to speak. So up here on the left is a little tiny obstacle. It's basically just this little up and down, very simple. And you can see the Cherokee in front of me had no problems going over it, and I think I actually touched. So like the one thing that you can do is you can go at an angle. So you see how I'm like going at an angle here? So like I'm intentionally not following the road. That's like one thing that you can do, and obviously you can only do it to a certain extent, because if you do too much, then obviously you'd roll over. It'd be like, meaning if you were like perpendicular to the road. But if you go at maybe like a 45-degree angle, like what will happen is like the one wheel will drop down, and the other wheel will still be touching. So you have a lot lower probability of high centering. You might still scrape on the bottom a little bit, but at least one of the two wheels will still have traction. And that's always very important. So whenever you go over like logs or anything like that, you always want to try to, if you think that you might have a difficulty there, try to just give it a little bit of angle. You don't have to be crazy with the angle, but like just give it a little bit, like don't just go straight over it. And obviously the more of an angle you give it, the more unlikely that you'll high center. But if you get too crazy with the angle, the more likely obviously that you might have problems being too tipsy, and obviously you know, nobody likes to be tipsy, and with the potential of maybe rolling over. So these trails are very wide that we're on in Mount Carmel. You can see this is kind of reminds me a lot of Roush Creek. Roush has a lot of these really wide trails also, where you can fit like 3 or 4 Jeeps next to each other on the trail. Like maybe not right in this exact spot, but back there you could. So keep in mind, if you've never seen coal mining equipment or you haven't looked at it closely, they have some really humongous trucks. And the really humongous trucks obviously need to be able to fit through a lot of these areas. So this is another one of those spots where there's a little obstacle. And it's nice to be able to see that, you know, we can at least have a couple little obstacles to play on. And then once again, the same thing applies here. You just want a little bit of angle. So I didn't approach it like directly perpendicular, and I didn't follow it either. So basically I only wanted one wheel to go down in that gully at a time. And as you saw, it was like pretty easy to navigate over. And that's the same exact trick that we use on another obstacle, of just not letting anything ever be exactly square, so to speak. So this area on the right, they must be digging something up, dumping dirt here. This looks like a coal mine. Like I said, you're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff. The trails are going to change around because we're literally out in the middle of the boonies in an area that, you know, they're coal mining. And they just, you know, with the pass, like, you get access to be able to go on their property and, you know, see what kind of stuff you can find. Just like I was trying to tell you, this isn't like an off-road park, like your traditional off-road park like AOAA or Roush Creek or Winrock Park or URE National Park or Gore, Virginia's, you know, Big Dogs, or even like Chaos in West Virginia, you know, where this is just like a park that's just dedicated to off-roading. This is more along the lines of people were trespassing out here because they had no way to like really patrol it because they had so much land. And some people were doing like vandalism and dumping and things that they didn't like. So instead of like having to chase people away and, you know, to make everybody's life unhappy, they kind of found this nice little kind of agreement, so to speak, or that seems like it's working pretty good. And that is they sell passes now. Like I was saying, you get the pass and then you agree to certain terms, and then you get access to use the land and it won't chase you off. So that seems nice. Since I don't have a pass, I don't know all the terms, but I kind of have a general idea how it works. And, you know, they only want you out here, I think, during certain hours. I don't think they want you out here in the middle of the night. And they don't want you vandalizing their equipment, obviously, and they want you to report anybody that's vandalizing their equipment, and they want you to report any kind of suspicious activity, and they want you to report any kind of dumping, and, you know, obviously report anybody that you know that's out here that doesn't have a pass. So basically, you know, they're getting money for people that would be otherwise trespassing. And not only that, but they're getting all these good Samaritans that are helping out with keeping an eye on their equipment and their land and stuff, so they don't have to hire so many people to go around and like kind of police the area. So for them, like, it's probably like win. And then, you know, for everybody else, you know, that's actually out here, it's a win also, because, you know, now you have access to the land and you don't ever have to worry about somebody, you know, going after you. Now PA isn't exactly like, let's say like West Virginia. Not that I want to be like too biased, but I'm pretty sure like if you were trespassing in West Virginia, they probably would shoot at you first and ask questions afterwards. You know, PA, they're pretty gun happy too. Virginia, I live in Virginia. Virginia's a pretty gun happy state too. But I don't think the PA is quite where it is like West Virginia is, and hopefully I don't get too many downvotes for people from West Virginia that are you know, upset with me. But the West Virginia people are just a little bit more protective, I think. I saw this out in Arizona too, believe it or not. When we were there, like I was like really surprised. We went to like Cracker Barrel, and like everybody had a gun. Like the 16-year-olds had guns, like the 70-year-olds in there had guns. Like everybody had guns. Like it was like Wild West. It felt like, and this was like in one of the main cities, and I was just astonished. I was like, wow, like that's not how it is in Virginia. Like in Virginia, you rarely see anybody carrying a gun. Like you see like police officers and stuff. But I know that there's a lot of concealed carries in Virginia. I mean, so it's not that people won't have them. You just don't see them. You know, like I guess brandishing isn't the right term. Brandishing is like when you show it to somebody to intimidate them. So I guess open carry would be the right term. You don't see as much open carry in Virginia as you do in some states. So as you can see, this is the area that they are, you know, they're mining it and stuff. And you know, like I was trying to describe so much that this is a access pass system to get you onto their land. And each of these tracks is a little bit different because they're in different counties. I think this crosses like 3 or 4 different counties of land. And it's like 20,000 acres, like I was saying. I mean, it's all PA, but I mean, you can spend weeks out here just kind of driving around exploring and not see the same land. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, so this is Mount Carmel, and we'll post another video. We have a couple more videos to do on famous reading, and we're kind of going slow with the content because of this, you know, virus thing. So anyway, we'll see you around. Thank you.